Hi folks, I'm Voba. I'm a singer and a vocal trainer, and this is my channel about anatomical vocal training. Today I want to talk about range. Range is the most basic, most important thing for a singer, because if you want to sing a song, you need to be able to reach the notes. So you need the range to sing the song. Otherwise you're going to struggle or you're not going to be at ease singing it. So as a singer, I want to have as much range as possible so I can sing all the songs that I want to sing, right? And I can sing them at ease. I can focus on my emotions and on the story of the song rather than on, oh, am I going to reach that note? Or can I actually reach that note? No, I don't want to waste time thinking about that and energy. So the more range you have, the easier it is for you to sing all kinds of repertoire that you want to sing. Now, what does that mean, range? How are different vocal heights created? When we talk about singing and the voice, it's all about frequency. So the lower you sing, the slower the frequency. The higher your note is, the higher the frequency. Most people know the middle A of the piano, that one, to be 440 hertz. Well, on this piano. Sometimes it's 420 with old music or 432 with alternative music, but most orchestras, most instruments tune their instrument to 440 hertz. Now, the higher you go, the higher the frequency goes. So the faster the vibrations have to be. The frequency is the vibrations per second that your vocal cords have to do in order to produce the notes. So for this A, your vocal cords have to do 440 vibrations per second, very, very fast, in order to produce that sound, right? The A below that is only 220 hertz, half as much. And then if you go above it, 880, right? It's double that. Is the A above. So the higher the note, the faster your vocal cords have to vibrate. The lower the note, the slower your vocal cords have to vibrate. Now, about the lower notes, we can do certain things, but about the higher notes, we can do a lot to reach higher notes with a full and easy going voice. My goal with anatomical vocal training is to reach higher notes in a very easy and healthy way. First of all, some basics. There are 3 different ways how to create higher notes. Way number 1 is more air pressure. It's a little like a flag in the wind. When the wind is very slow, the flag goes with a very low frequency, right? When there's a storm rushing over the land, the flag goes with a very high frequency, right? So the frequency can be changed by more air pressure. The storm has more pressure behind the wind than just the little breeze. Same thing here in the throat. If you push more air through it, then you can reach, or you can make the vocal cords vibrate faster, like that flag in the wind that is racing. Now, there's a problem with that, a major problem, because in the throat, above your vocal cords, sit the vocal folds, the false vocal folds. And if you push the air from below on top, on your vocal cords, then they might vibrate or flutter faster, but they're also pushed upwards towards the vocal folds. Now, between the vocal cords, there's epithelial tissue, meaning the tissue, for instance, here on your hand is different than the tissue on the back of your hand, right? It's a little bit harder. It's more used to touch. So between the vocal cords, it's the same thing. They are made to be able to touch. However, between the vocal cords and vocal folds, on top of the vocal cords and below the vocal folds, there is no such harder tissue. There's like really soft tissue. So if the tissue of the vocal cords and the vocal folds touches and kind of like rubs against each other because the vocal cords are vibrating, then it creates a problem because the tissue is not made to touch, right? So when it touches and it rubs against each other, it's as if you would be rubbing your skin like this and rub that for like 5 minutes. You will feel a burn, which is the same thing that happens here on your vocal cords. So that's how you get sore, when the vocal cords and the vocal folds touch and they rub against each other where they're not supposed to touch. So pushing more air through your windpipe is actually problematic because it can really create problems for your vocal cords because of that friction that you most likely will create between vocal cords and vocal folds, which are not supposed to touch, which are not made to touch. Especially if you always depend on reaching these notes for that. Option number 2, how to create higher sounds, is called Aliquote Division. What that means is that your vocal cords vibrate like this in your throat. Now, when you cough, they push on top against each other very tightly so that you create some overpressure under them, right? And then you let go. This is the opening, right? With some pressure, and you let go so that the stuff, whatever you want to cough out, comes out. Now, they don't press just as one entity on top of each other. They have certain points on your vocal cords that press on top of each other. And the whole, when all these points press on top of each other, they close very tightly. Now, what we can do in singing is not press all of these together, but just press on 1 or 2 up to 7 points, just like usually it starts in front of the vocal cords, and immobilize the front, for instance, of the vocal cords, and then only the back of the vocal cords vibrates, but the front is immobilized because of this pressure point that pushes on top of each other, against each other. So that is called Aliquote Division. And many of you will know this phenomena as whistle notes. You know, the extreme version of this is whistle notes. So when these people that have these very, very high notes, that doesn't really sound like a human anymore. It sounds like a flute or like a bird, Mariah Carey, you know, that is exactly that. She pushes maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe even 5 or 7 points on top of each other, and then only the back part of the vocal cord vibrates. So this is a bit like you running a marathon, because singing is a physical thing. You know, your vocal cords have to vibrate very fast, very quickly, in order for you to produce all these frequencies, these high and low frequencies. And it's as if you would run a marathon with a ribbon wrapped tightly around your thigh. You might be lucky and get through the marathon unharmed, but you might not. And if you always run the marathon bringing this imbalance to your muscle, you will have problems. Same thing here. If you always, you know, clip off parts of your vocal cords and only use certain parts, the back part, for instance, of your vocal cords, that can really, really damage your voice. That's why with nodules, with vocal nodules, you often see in the first third, right? First third, second third, third of your vocal cords. In the first third, after the first third, you often see the nodules there, because that's the first point where people usually start clipping off their vocal cords to produce higher notes. Because it's an imbalance in the muscle, in the muscle work, when the whole muscle cannot work but just parts of it, and you kind of like hold parts of it, you know, clipped off. Now, not healthy either, not very healthy, can be very, very dangerous, and is sadly very dangerous for most people. The third way how to create higher sounds is stretching the vocal cords. That one is the only way that is healthy how to produce higher frequencies. Now, Stretching the vocal cords is a bit like a guitar string, right? When you have a guitar string and it's very loose, it makes like a really low sound. Ding, ding, ding. Well, now when you stretch it, ding, 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 it goes higher and higher. That's how you tune a guitar, stretching the chords so that the strings, stretching the strings so that the sound goes higher, or loosening the strings so the sound goes lower. For the vocal cords, there are certain muscles that I will go into detail with in my next video that stretch the vocal cords. And you want to train these muscles to be super strong so that they can be so strong that they give you 3.5 or 4 octaves, up to 4 and a bit maybe octaves. So that you can always reach all the notes and all the frequencies with the entire vocal cord, and not with a sad excuse of a vocal cord, just half of it, or 1/3, or even less. Now, changing from using a lot of air pressure to reach certain notes, or clipping off parts of your vocal cords in order to reach certain notes, to just pulling the vocal cords long, it will be a process. Because we are humans, we are people of habit, we are used to a certain way of using our body. Now, if you trained and used your voice clipping it off or pushing with more air pressure for 5 to 10, to some of us 30 to 40 years, it's gonna take some input and some time in order to change and not do that anymore, not use pressure, not clip off parts of yourself, to not use your full voice. In order to use your full voice again, the full vibration of your vocal cords, and to train these muscles, you might have to spend a few months up to a few years in order to really reach these 4 octaves of range, of healthy, legitimate range, to be super at ease with your voice. But that is just because we have the habit of doing it that way so long that it's so difficult to do it another way. And that needs some getting used to. So it might take a while for you to actually get there. But it's so worth it because it's healthy. You will not get sore because your vocal cords and your vocal folds won't meet. You will not get nodules. Well, unless, wrong vocal technique is not the only thing that can give you nodules. But with most people, I think that is a major contributor, if not the only contributor. But at least from your technique, you will not get nodules. Maybe from an allergy or from something else, but not from a wrong technique. And it frees the voice. If you use your entire voice to actually produce these sounds, your voice will become V-shaped rather than A-shaped. Meaning, many people have a voice that goes quieter and quieter, smaller and smaller to the top. I have a voice that goes broader and broader to the top, which is such a liberation, also mentally, emotionally. That's why also it takes a while, because it's an emotional process to actually allow yourself to be that loud, to fill the entire room with your voice. It's such a liberating sensation. It might take a while to get used to it. Now, that's it for today. I will go in further detail through especially the stretching the vocal cords within my next video. I hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, subscribe to my channel if you want to and have more of that content. And I see you next time.